Liberty Prime versus an Imperial Knight, the strongest pure robot that roams a wasteland filled with American patriotism and anti-communist rhetoric. Liberty Prime, a giant 12-meter-tall robot who was designed to fight on the Alaskan front, but never could due to energy issues, and was left dormant in the Pentagon for nearly 200 years until the Brotherhood was able to fix Prime's power issue. He then became the main weapon against the Enclave until his untimely destruction from an orbital strike, but that wasn't it for Prime. When the Brotherhood arrived to the Commonwealth, so did Prime in his damaged state, in which they would repair him and make him stronger with a new beryllium agitator, allowing Prime to function indefinitely without any concern for power, versus an Imperial Knight. For this case, we're using a Knight Castellan, a 10-meter tall super heavy class knight, using the Dominus chassis piloted by one of the prestigious nobles from the Knight Houses. Each suit is a relic from a bygone era. These armored giants serve the Imperium and even the Adeptus Mechanicus. These knights as machine spirits fuse with the mind of their pilots, giving a seamless bond between pilot and machine. Powered by self-contained plasma reactors, these suits are still seen on the battlefield, wreaking havoc and instead dropping from orbit down onto traitorous bastards. So which one will walk out alive? So first up, Liberty Prime. Prime, again, is a giant 12-meter tall robot, and for this case we're going to be using Fallout 4's Liberty Prime, as it's a stronger variant. Liberty Prime is seen using laser blasts, which in Fallout 3 can instantly blow up a vertibird, which are bigger than the smallest class of knights, armigers. But of course, they're nowhere near as durable as one, but that's still a massive feat. And on top of that, it's likely heavier and weighs more than a Knight Castellan due to the fact that it's just simply more massive compared to one. And we have seen Prime being able to withstand heavy laser damage from Institute Sims, and his greatest feat of durability is also in Fallout 3, where he is obliterated by orbital bombardment. But we can see that Prime was okay for the first few missiles, but after a total of 20 missiles was launched onto Prime, he still wasn't turned into complete scrap, and in Fallout 4, Liberty Prime was rebuilt to be even stronger than in 3. He also possesses two new weapons, Mark 28 nuclear warheads, which were the same bombs dropped on the Commonwealth, and a new laser ray mode which can blow through hundreds of meters straight into the Institute labs. And on top of that, the laser ray can destroy the Pridwin in the Institute ending, which is an insane feat. But a Knight Castellan, ooh boy, this thing is powerful. It's equipped with a plasma decimator, shield breaker missile launchers, twin melta guns, twin siege breaker cannons, and last, a volcano lance, not a volcano cannon. It possesses a ion shield which absorbs energy and slows down projectiles, but something like a nuke or a massive death beam could knock it down or be unable to fully stop one. And the Castellan's plasma decimators are strong enough to turn entire battlefields into nothing but glowing ashes. And if that's not enough, they can anger the machine spear to supercharge them and their weapons. However, it could risk exploding the weapon and thus damaging the knight. And on its carapace lies the shield breaker missiles. These are an ancient variant of the hunter-killer missiles, which can disrupt or go through enemy knights and titan shields. Then, its twin weapons, the melta gun and siege breaker cannons. Melta weapons induce a minute submolecular reaction that can vaporize most organic troops and even melt adamantium. And the siege breaker cannons are simply heavy gun turrets that can lay down a heavy bombardment or carpet bomb an entire area in flames and shrapnel. But the most devastating weapon it has is its volcano lance. Not to be confused with the Volcano Cannon, a Titan weapon, these Volcano Lances are incredibly strong, being able to destroy the head of a Titan, which is essentially hitting all sixes and having your opponent land devastating ones on the saving throws. But now, put these two together in the same arena, who is walking out alive? How are we gonna do this fight? We're gonna first off list their main weaknesses and their strengths, then we're gonna go put them in multiple scenarios and try to come up with a strategy that would be best against both characters. The Castellan. First, its ion shields aren't completely surrounding it, as most often these shields only cover the front, but they can be moved to the sides or the back, however it does leave the rest exposed. Second, unlike Titans, there's only a singular person operating a knight, so a good shot into the cockpit can kill the pilot, thus ending the knight. Third, for this case, the knight is extremely vulnerable up close because it lacks a melee weapon unlike many other patterns, however it makes up for that with its insane firepower at distance. Fourth, the weakest areas of the knights are at its joints, specifically near the hips and elbow joints, which can either topple the Titan or make its main weapons unusable. Fifth, the Volcano Lance cannot fire instantly as it needs time to lock on a target, and on top of that, it takes time to charge the weapon as well, and if it misses or hits a non-vital area, it will take a while to get a second shot in. Strengths. First, its mid to long range capabilities are insane. A Plasma Decimator which can do heavy damage to Liberty Prime, and its Volcano Lance which can instantly kill Prime if it hits the torso. Second, even in close range, it's not completely screwed. It may not be able to fire its main weapons, however it can fire its melta guns and siege breaker turrets, making it not a sitting duck. Third, knights are made of adamantium, which is significantly stronger than steel by a wide margin, giving immense durability, meaning it can tank several blasts and rays before going down. Fourth, its ion shields could make Liberty Prime's smaller attacks, like laser blasts, ineffective, and likely withstand plenty of damage from Prime's ray or nukes before going out. And fifth, Imperial Knights are actually very fast given their size and surprisingly agile. However, this video here shows a different knight, a Questoris Knight. Now, Liberty Prime. Weaknesses. First, Liberty Prime also has weaker joints, primarily near the hips and the joint connection with the upper legs and forearms. A good shot from a plasma decimator could melt away the joints, making Prime unable to walk or rip an arm off, effectively making him inoperable. Second, compared to Knights, Liberty Prime is quite slow, moving at 34 miles per hour, potentially allowing the Castellan to lock on to Prime if Prime doesn't use cover. Third, a well-placed shot from a volcano lance through the chest will absolutely pierce it and blow Prime's nukes, in which a massive nuclear explosion will occur, but that might also take out the castle. Fourth, Liberty Prime moves very predictably, making it possible for the Castellan to lock on several shots on the Prime at distances. Strengths. First, although Prime is made out of steel and composite, it could 100% survive plasma decimator shots even at the joints, but those would take fewer shots. On top of that, Prime was built to withstand such types of weaponry, even though fallen energy weapons are weaker than 40k energy weapons. Second, in terms of ballistics, Prime is still incredibly durable, as he would be able to survive the twin siegebreaker cannons or even the melta guns, and likely be able to survive several missiles, as the castellan would run out of missiles before it could kill Prime. Third, its laser ray is an incredibly strong weapon. If it gets close enough to the castellan, it can deal enough damage to render the knight inoperable or target its cockpit, killing the knight, thus winning the battle. Fourth, nukes are no joke. It's likely possible that one or two of Liberty Prime's nukes are enough to completely destroy the knight, and Prime can also survive his own nukes at close range, and top that off with laser blast and laser rave. It definitely does have the firepower to take out a knight quickly. Last strength. Liberty Prime actually has hands, meaning it can grab the enemy knight's weapons and force them away and blast straight into the cockpit, or even redirect his weapons to point it at the knight. So, now that we have said their strengths and weaknesses, I'm now going to put these two into several combat scenarios to see who would win. The area that they're going to be duking out will be a ruined city with giant buildings, as putting them on an open field really wouldn't be that fair. So let's start first at long range. The Castellan's best option is to bombard Prime with the Volcano Lance and to destroy buildings with the Siegebreaker cannons alongside its Plasma Decimator. Or Prime would have to use cover and fire laser blasts to disorientate the knight until it can get close enough to use the nukes and ray. However, at this distance, Prime's lack of speed and agility would allow the knight to eventually hit a vital area, thus ending the giant. So the castellan would win nearly every single time, as Prime would have no real way to deal with the knight at this distance. Mid-range. This is where it gets more interesting. Now that they are close, Prime can actually use his nukes and rays somewhat effectively now, and could even close the distance between them. However, the Castellan could also use weapons more effectively as well, like the Plasma Decimator and missiles especially. However, Prime could fire faster than the Castellan using his weaker laser blast, but his main primaries would take more time to fire, and honestly, at this range, it really depends on who fires first. But I still believe the Castellan would still win due to his chassis being made of adamantium. However, the Castellan will definitely be damaged, likely losing a main gun and depleting all the side weaponry ammo that it has. So the Castellan would still win most of the time, but with the rare chance that Prime could win. So I'd say an 80% chance for the Castellan to win, while only leaving a 20% chance for Prime to win. Short range. The Castellan's best moves is simply use his side weapons, as Prime is way too close for it to use its main weapons before Prime could close distance. However, Prime? Now he has the advantage, as he can actually close the distance between the knight. Prime could grab the main guns of the knight, then push them aside, or just straight up completely rip them off, and he'd be able to tank all of his side weapons while beaming straight into the cockpit. The Castellan would use absolutely nearly everything that it has to try and end Prime, but he simply wouldn't have enough time before Prime could finish him off. So Liberty Prime would win most of the time, however he would definitely sustain heavy damage and likely would need to be rebuilt afterwards, but at the end of the day he'd still be standing. So overall, who wins this 1v1? Easily the Knight Castellan. That Volcano Lance is an utterly insanely powerful weapon, alongside its other insane weapons like the Siegebreaker cannons and Plasma Decimator. It honestly was a really hard matchup. But do not mistake it for a Volcano Cannon, as those are completely different weapons, and a Volcano Cannon, yeah, I wouldn't be making this video if it had that. Liberty Prime is definitely no slouch. He's still incredibly strong, however it was never designed to fight other giant robots, only infantry and strongholds, but other smaller knights like Armigers and Questoris patterns, Yeah, Prime would likely win against those. The sheer size advantage in its nukes makes up for its durability, as other Knight's weapons aren't as devastating as a fucking Volcano Lance. But overall, I like both of them equally, as I have them printed out and chilling on my desk, except for Prime right now, as he's a work in progress. So, if you want to give your take on who wins, feel free to let me know in the comments, and feel free to join my Discord to chat about this video. If you want to see more Beeper content, click here. Also, please like and sub so this video gets pushed out to more people, and you can always unsub later. So, that's it. Beeper out.